Yeah, what's good, Joe? Shaman, the Bigga P, and here to share my thoughts on the doubleheader that was on Showtime the other night. Um, First of all, I want to do a special mention on another card that I sort of watched in between, and I probably will have to watch it again before I even make any more comments about it. But the top ranked card yesterday too. It was disappointing because it was on pay-per-view and all, and this would have been one of those perfect cards you could have just thrown on HBO or whatever, maybe a rare quadruple header on HBO. Um, that they threw a card like that on pay-per-view, which I'm pretty sure did not sell, and it had a right to. I mean, uh, the fights were, overall they were cool and all. I mean, I didn't really like the Ramirez fight all that much. It was a little bit slow paced for my liking, especially coming from that division, coming from who Ramirez is. But the Valdez versus Mariaga fight, class, pure class. I mean, that's probably one of the better featherweight fights I've seen in years, man. That was an awesome fight, and I fully recommend anyone who was watching the Showtime card that if they can find like a download or something of that nature, man, just to catch this card, I strongly recommend that you do so. But yes, now onto the Showtime card. The Showtime card, the main card at least, started off with Jermell Charlo defending his WBC 154 title for the first time against Charles Hatley. Going into this fight, because I know Charles Hatley had been like the number one contender for like a minute, um, and well, with Hatley, it took because the last time he had fought was like at the end of 2015 when he knocked out Anthony Mundine. I think it was like 4 knockdowns on Mundine and 1 on him. It was a pretty interesting scrap. It was a pretty interesting and exciting scrap for what it was, and ever since then he had not fought since. Cause I know he had some issues with Don King, promoters, maybe as an injury too. But then he was just going into his title shot, uh, damn near off for 17 months, which is kind of unheard of to me. And then we have Jermell Charlo, who I think hadn't defended his belt like a year. He hadn't fought in a while, like maybe almost a year or a year. And then he's defending his belt for the first time. And going to this fight, I mean, I thought it would be like somewhat, I thought it would be a 50-50 fight. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Jermell Charles, like, when he won that WBC belt against John Jackson, he didn't look good. He was getting outboxed and everything until he turned the tides, and he was losing on the cards at the time of the stoppage. And I remember watching that and not being very impressed with what he'd done. So this is where and then Hatley, who does have some pop in him, although he is pretty chinny as anything. But I was thinking to myself when I was looking at the odds, like, maybe Hatley might have something in him. So I was like, you know what, let me throw some coin on Hatley if he's plus 1,000, which I did, in a draw just in case, just to see what would happen. The fight itself, I mean, I thought maybe Hatley would be able to upset the apple cart just a little bit. And then on top of the layoffs, like who's left would affect who first. Turns out the layoff didn't affect Charlo one bit, but Hatley just I don't know. I mean, I know you can tell like within the first couple of rounds that there was. I mean, first it was a feel out round, and then you could tell. I mean, Hatley wasn't reacting to the punches as well as I thought he would be, and I think in the second or third round that he got dropped, and he got dropped hard. I mean, that was a beautiful combination for Berto, who I don't even think much of it as a puncher, not like his brother, who I think is one of the more premier punchers in that division. And then Hatley, I think after that, I don't think he ran out of ideas. I mean, you could tell. I mean, he was coming in like it's like Hatley didn't understand what range was, like how to keep a range, how to keep a good range, how to get not to stay in the range of of somebody's jab. It was just falling up. It was just high guarding it in, And the thing was, he was high guarding in, but I've never seen a high guard that was so leaky that that Charlo was actually punching right through his guard. And then once after a couple of that, then he was just just started moving on the ring, just wasted movement. In which Charlo managed to cut him off, cut the ring off on him. And I'm just thinking about, and then of course I saw him breathing hard, and I'm like, this is it's like you wonder like what the hell was Hatley doing? Like, I mean, is this the layoff that's attributing to this type of performance, or is it just he didn't train hard enough, or but whatever it was, a lot of people, I was a little bit I was like Charlo should probably go in and wade in and go for the kill. Sure enough, that's what he did. I mean, he exploded. I think it was in the 6th round. He exploded on him, and Charlo and Hatley didn't know what to do. He didn't tie him up. Didn't do anything. Couldn't do anything. And they got onto the ropes. And then what ended the fight was just pretty much a straight shot, like a boom, like a street fight shot, right on the chin, out cold, man. It was just highly, highly impressive performance by Charlo. And Hatley, all the stuff all the trash that he was talking, the weigh-in, the run-in last year, after the Charlo-Trout fight, all that stuff. You were thinking that he would put on a better performance than that, and he just fell completely flat. And I felt for him because, I know he had probably waited a long time for this title shot, but it just wasn't to be. Hopefully at some point he'll come back stronger than ever, and become, I guess, either, challenge for a title against somebody's title again. As for Charlo, he has fights for days. 154 compared, it's not just who he signed for. I know he's been calling out Hurd, who I think every champion at 154 has been calling out Hurd, because they see Hurd as the least experienced and the guy that is probably the easiest to beat in that situation. You have Laura calling him out and everything like that. And you're like, you got Andre calling him out. Everyone's calling him out. So, like I said, Charlo has his best. He has unifications all over the place. He has, and I don't know. I know Lubin is the mandatory for Hurd, but I think too he's also the mandatory for Charles. So that's even more interesting. So we'll see how that that whole fight plays out. But kudos for Charles on that performance. And then it takes us to the main event: Andre Berto versus Shawn Porter. This fight, to me, I've never been a fan of either fighter. Berto, I can't stand watching fight, and Porter, as he was coming up, couldn't stand watching him fight. So it's actually interesting to me now that, the fight, the people how they fight. You see Berto now, he's 33, but in boxing age, he's like 53 or 63. The guy's been through so many wars and injuries and God knows what. And then you have Porter, who fights almost as who is not as who isn't even as refined as Berto, but is in his prime, is strong, and he's been actually putting in work. Now, my feeling was in this fight is it was just another payday for Berto, and he was just going to this was just going to be a one-sided fight. I was right. There was there was no. I wasn't gonna. Berto was the underdog. I wasn't gonna put any money on Berto. That wasn't gonna happen. My only thing is whether or not Porter would actually stop him or not. Berto only been stopped once by Soto-Carras, and in Soto-Carras it took him 12 rounds, and then plus the busted shoulder that he had at the time to do it. Porter didn't waste no time. Porter bullied him into the ropes. Berto couldn't keep off the ropes. Berto was, he'd flick out a jab here and there. Then afterwards, he'd forget to do that. Porter was on a mission, and I know the second round again he caught him with overhand. I think it was an overhand right to the temple, and down went Berto. And then the fight got raw. There was just, Porter got busted up too, but he was busted up because his the constant headbutting. And it was just the headbutts and then the elbows. It was a pretty dirty fight. Not intentionally dirty. At least I like to think that it's not intentionally dirty. But it was enough to that he was. That Berto, I was surprised. I would think that being a guy who he's been in the ring with and has been in several wars, would know to fire back, was not doing that. And then another thing else I found highly annoying were the doctors. I mean, the doctors don't need to check the fighters out in every goddamn round, like twice in a round and all that stuff like that. I mean, granted, I know it's New York and I know I know why they're doing it, but you know, this fight they really OD'd on it, and it was starting to get on my nerves. Cause I think there was a time where even Berto had an upside. And I think they stopped the fight because, you know, the ref, you know, wanted the doctor to check Berto again. And then as the fight continued on, I mean, Porter was not getting dissuaded. I mean, Berto would land the right hand, would land his uppercut, no effect really, bullying into the ropes, just mauling him. The body work, you know, Porter was just going at it to the body, and it was, I mean, Berto had nothing, couldn't stay off the ropes, couldn't movement, couldn't time, couldn't do anything. So like you could tell by the 8th round, like he wanted out. He wanted out of the fight, and then the 9th round he went hard into the ropes. That was a knockdown. I mean, you could tell like the fight had been beaten completely out of him. And then after sooner or later, then he got trapped in the corner, and Porter started teeing off. The referee's like, you know, nah, that's it. That is it. So I mean, it was not pretty, but it was effective, and it got the job done and got him pretty much a tremendous victory for Porter. So I know right now the talks are now, you know, we're going to look at Porter versus Thurman too. I was in the house for the first Porter Thurman fight, and that was a fight where I was skeptical because I mean I did it because originally it was in Connecticut, and then Thurman caught that injury before, so they moved this. So I was like, that's the only reason why I actually bought the ticket for it, you know, to go to New York and Barclays actually to see that. And it was a great decision. I mean, it ended up being a hell of a fight and like one of the top 3 fights of last year. But I mean, would the second fight play out like this? I mean, Porter knows how to make Thurman fight. There's no question. But there won't be no Thurman Swift shit going on. But now I think he's Thurman's mandatory, who I know is trying to get. Who I know is. And by the way, Thurman was looking like he was eating pretty well. As he should, you know, he got his tremendous victory. He got himself another welterweight belt. So as he should, you know, but you know, when you look at that, you know, he's probably not gonna be ready to fight until like probably the fall or something. I mean, Porter earned a shot, so you know, I guess he'll be Thurman's mandatory. Whether he'll be the one Thurman will face in the fall remains to be seen. As for Berto, I mean, what can you say about Berto? I mean, he's done. I mean, Berto is a guy that's made a lot of money, lots and lots of money in boxing. I mean, he's one of Al Heyman's like initial clients. I mean, Heyman's looked out for him. I mean, the guy has he's earned a lot of money in this boxing, and he should probably pack it in. I mean, you could tell, man. I mean, the thing that made Berto more of a sensation back in the day, like the explosiveness he had, none of that wasn't there. Yeah, I mean, it was nothing. I mean, sure, he was in shape, but, you know, it was just like a shell. I mean, not completely done, but getting to the point where he is almost done. And my feeling is that Berto should actually go and retire peacefully before someone else forces him out of the sport. So, but yeah, you know, it was a cool night of fights, and yeah, I mean, I guess I will probably catch a rerun at some point. But right now, it is like beautiful outside. It's like supposed to be like in the 60s, 67, 68 today. So that's what I'm probably gonna focus on first. So until next time, peace.